What's up, fishes? Welcome back to today's show. Thanks for joining us. Today's episode is sponsored by Tackle Advisors. And on our show today, we have Brian Blazek and Trevor James with Wet and Wild Outfitters. Thanks for joining us here today, guys.
Hey, thanks, Kurt.
So, yep, glad you're here. Glad we can get this together.
Thanks for having us, Kurt.
Absolutely. So, so tell me a little bit about Wet and Wild Outfitters, what you're about, and kind of the story to it.
Our big focus is going to be this time of the year, ice fishing guide rentals. We rent ice fishing equipment, fully housed, fish houses, heated, all the supplies you would need, from baits, tackle, rods, lures, and then for inexperienced anglers, we also offer fully guided trips where we'll actually take you out on a fully guided trip with a hot on ice lunch. Same luxuries that you would have if you were going up north, but in the Fox Lake area.
Okay. So kind of keeping it close to home and manageable for you then, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, this is where we live. This is where we enjoy. We don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon, so we're just trying to bring that Northwoods feel to the area. You know?
And I know you spend a lot of time on the ice. How many days a week are you guys out there in general during the busy season?
I mean, as much as possible. It can get bad. It can 4, 5, 6 days a week sometimes.
Are you? Yeah.
It really depends. I mean, I think this is one of the unique opportunities that doing the equipment rentals and the guiding service offers, is that we're going out on days that maybe we'd typically be sitting inside, or checking out new bodies of water, especially with the equipment rental aspect of it.
Okay.
You know, we've been at a lot of local derbies, things of that nature, where we wouldn't necessarily be out there on a normal day fishing, but get out and get to play with some new water.
Okay. So, and do you have packages that are available, or is it renting kind of a la carte where you're picking and choosing, or how does
Absolutely.
it work?
Well, I mean, there's, Trevor could discuss the different options, but basically you get full or half days with either of the services. A lot of people typically would lean towards full days on the equipment rentals because they want to get out there and enjoy it on their own. That's kind of how the whole thing started. And me and Trevor met up, and Trevor was talking about how it'd be cool to have people have the opportunity to get out and enjoy ice fishing that normally wouldn't be doing it because of the misconception that they're going to be cold.
Okay.
And so having the heated shanties available for people to use, really offers the novice fisherman a chance to try out the sport.
Okay. And are there certain size shanties that you have available, or
we typically work with a 5-man hub. Okay. Which is enough room. We're doing trips of 3 usually. Seems to be a common number, 3 or 4. But that's not to say we can't put 2 hubs next to each other. Okay. We also have 2-man sleds available. Okay. So if we want to do more of a flip over option, we have the 2-man sleds available as well. Okay, that's great. And do you try and if time allowed, would you be guiding pretty much every day of the week if you could, or is it hard? You still want some free time to yourselves to do the finding the fish, or?
There's a fine balance between it. I myself, currently we have only a select few dates available for actual guided trips. Okay. We try to fill it up. We do tend to spend a lot of time before a guide trip or after a guide trip looking for new spots, trying new waters, different tactics. I'm a big advocate of ice trolling. I don't know if you've ever heard of ice trolling or not. I'm sure you've trolled for walleyes or muskies before, right? So on the ice, it's a little more difficult. You have to drill hundreds of holes some days. So you're going to work the same thing. You're going to have your troll line, your weed edge, your brake line, whatever that piece of structure you may be working that you would traditionally troll in your boat. You're just going to drill a whole line of holes there and then troll back and forth with your ice rods, and either your Vexlar or Garmin Panoptix is a great tool for doing that. It adds efficiency to it. It speeds the process of finding those fish, whether it's walleyes, targeting that mid to late season crappie bite, looking for those larger fish within the schools. And that's one of the biggest things that we've been really trying to get a spin-off is angler education.
Yeah, I think, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I think our fishing for fun, the stuff that we do for our own pleasure and enjoyment, really I mean, we're more run and gun. You know, it may not be up to speed for some people who are just getting into it. Me and Trevor spend a lot of time outside the shanty, you know, pretty much moving the whole time. You know, I think it's great exercise. I love doing it. But that being said, that provides us with a lot of the information that's necessary if we are, you know, in a situation where somebody wants to come out and they want to learn about a particular body of water. You know, that we have places that we can go to where we've figured it out on our own, if you will.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's kind of, I think doing your homework goes a long way in this kind of stuff.
When you guys guide, do you guide as a team, or do one of you take them, or does it depend on the outing?
Typically, we go together.
Okay. So you get
way.
you get the knowledge of two people that way as well. So
Yeah, it helps. You know, it keeps one of us can be with our group, teaching them. You know, why are we rigging baits this way? Why did we choose these baits? Cold front specifically in this area. Why did we make a move? If we set up in one position, and the next thing they know, well, why did we just move halfway across this body of water to this area? And having people like Brian on our staff really helps because he understands why we make these moves. I don't have to just go, hey Brian, why do we do this? Brian knows why. You know, and then we could, you know, him and
it's
I.
Nice because then we can work together and be finding fish actively, you know, during it. And you know, granted, we've only been doing this a couple of years, and in no way do we claim to be the best around, you know, but it's a lot of fun, you know, and it's if we work together, it's like, hey, I'm not out here to make $1 million, I'm out here to have fun fishing. And I think when we're able to introduce more people into that aspect of it, that's really what the camaraderie and everything that we're after that kind of makes the sport better. So.
Okay, yeah, and I like the idea with the rental stuff. If I'm understanding, you can get a couple of pieces of gear to the full, you know, setup for the entire day.
Yeah, and you know, we
that's
basically with the rentals, if you're super new into it, we set it up like, okay, we're going to put you in a spot. I'm not taking you to like the public honey hole. We're going to put you somewhere that's a decent, you got a decent opportunity of having fun and catching some fish.
Okay.
And then we'll go in and drill all your holes for you. I'll drill 50 holes all around the shack, and I'll show you where they all are, you know, and then basically leave you up to that with a couple tips. Okay. And you know, come back and check in at lunch, and you know, people are usually really receptive to the idea.
Okay. Huh.
So especially with we had a couple last year with not VRBO, but people with the vacation rentals.
Correct. Airbnb.
Okay. So we had a couple, you know, rentals that were people in from out of town with an Airbnb on the lake. And they're like, well, we see all these people ice fishing out here. We didn't know we could go ice fishing. Where can we get equipment? And, you know, segue right into that. And we just, you know.
And now it turned into actually working with Airbnb and working with local real estate agents to provide lodging for clients that want to come out.
That's a great idea.
We had a lot of clients coming from, I just booked one here this week. We have 2 from Indiana and then 1 from Kentucky.
Okay.
And they're like, well, we want to come, but we see these hotels and they're like, this isn't quite the style I'm looking for. I'm looking for something a little nicer. Right. I said, well, we have some lodging options, and then, you know, here's a couple other hotel referrals in the area. And by being a full service provider, you know, we're able to help speed up their vacation process, their planning process, and make that as easy as possible for them.
Are you finding that a lot of people are coming to this area to either snowmobile or ice fish or ski or whatever else?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I see a huge resurgence, honestly, of younger people coming back around here. There's been a lot of great local businesses that have opened recently, and people, the chain's got a reputation for winter sports. You know what I mean? It really does, and for the snowmobiling especially. You know, but now with ice fishing really catching on, and I think with the advent of all of this new technology, it's making it a lot more comfortable and a lot less boring, if you will. So like, especially with the electronics. So we're not like sitting in empty holes where there's nothing going on. You know, with the technology we have now, we're able to actually be trying to find active fish. You know what I'm saying? And so it eliminates a lot of those dead spots. You know, it's not a magic trick by any means. It doesn't put the fish on your hook for you, but it just wastes a lot of dead spots, or gets rid of the waste of time on a lot of dead fishing water. You know, and then with the heated shanties, you know, and you don't have to be uncomfortable. You can expect to be able to take your jacket off in the shanty. You know what I'm saying? And that's a nice feature that wasn't available 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Do you guys do a lot of ice fishing without the shanty yourselves, or no?
yeah.
Yeah, because
Primarily.
that's a lot of
Primarily.
setup and moving, and you want to move a lot too. You were saying.
I like to,
so.
yeah, personally, I like to set up as kind of a hub. You
With
know,
the
so-
shanty?
Yeah, so
Okay,
if I'm going
so
to be
that's like a
fishing
home
an
base,
area,
yeah.
set up a home
warm up
base.
if you need, and
Right,
okay.
get out of the elements, you know, warm up, have lunch. You know, sometimes the shanty can be a huge asset as well, though, especially with like shallow water, hot daytime bites.
If you bring your poles.
Right, because you don't want to be. Sometimes the shadow of your body on top of it and all of that movement can be a distraction. Where if you put the shanty over you, you're creating kind of like a calm zone in the water, if you will. You know, and the shade seems to help sometimes.
Right, yeah.
So.
Shade, shadows, all that. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. That's
Especially
interesting.
shallow water bites, clear water bites. Clear water, you'll always see me fish out of a shack
Okay.
all the time, even if I'm by myself or with another person. But yeah, primarily, even our guide trips, we like to use the hubs as a base. It's a place to go in. It's more like you said, warming shelter. You know, to be most productive, and all of our guide trips are tailored to each individual client. We make sure, you know, what's your expectation, what are you trying to do with your trip. So with that, then we have a good understanding of what each client is looking to do, what they expect out of their trip, and what, you know, make sure we can give them the best service. But to be the most productive on the ice, you have to be mobile. Just like in a boat, you know, in a boat we can cover miles on miles in one single day.
Right.
On the ice, in order to cover miles, there's only one way to do it. You've got to be outside.
Right.
So we try to make that the best of both worlds. We understand some of the really bitter cold days. You know, we can set up on, you know, specific pieces of structure where we know the fish are going to be flashing through. You know, there's a lot of cribs that are in these water systems. Most of them are even they're right on avionics.
Yeah.
You know, it's common knowledge. The biggest key to finding a lot of those pieces of structure is going to be getting out in the boat. You know, a lot of guys overlook using their electronics in the spring, in the fall, in the summer, and looking at, you know, what's the depth of the water here? You know, dropping their transducers and scanning a lake in the fall. You know, hey, I see a new weed patch here. Why? Surprised? Why didn't you check it out?
Right.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Yeah, I like to do that as well.
Reiterated that with me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the huge pluses we have as of recently is I remember even just like 5-6 years ago having my traditional sonar or my traditional flasher and then carrying around my phone with Navionics on it all the time, trying to map spots at the same time. Well, and then I'm doing this and this. Whereas now, I mean, I use my ice fishing electronics on the bow of my boat all summer, and I'm able to mark spots
And
and I'm
you're
able to do
preparing,
all
yeah.
that. And you know, so like when I find stuff or find productive areas, I've got those spots marked, and you know they're going to be accurate within a couple feet when I get it back out on the ice there.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's, and
So
I think it's an invaluable technology, especially having it all in one.
right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Being
this-
strategic all year round, pretty much.
This fall, Brian and I spent a considerable amount of time working both the upper and lower lakes just to find new places. You know,
Really? Yeah.
just looking for specific pieces of structure and
it's really amazing. Actually, the thing that made me start looking at it more is the maps aren't accurate. Like if you look at Navionics and you're like expecting to be fishing 17 feet of water, there's been so many times where I've come up on it and it's like 10 feet of water. And you know, it's like this map isn't accurate at all, but then when you get back on top of it, you're able to figure out, you know, what the real breaks are and what's really going on down there.
Okay.
And then couple that with a camera, you know what I'm saying, and Panoptics technology, you know, you're really able to dial in like which side of the structure you're on, what's actually down there, what am I looking at? Is it a Christmas tree? Is it a rock pile? You know,
Right.
things of that nature. So, yep.
yeah, even to the point, you know, we use the aquaviews all the time to find good weeds, especially this early ice bite now. You know, we're on the tail end of that early ice bite now, but we're still using this camera to find deep weeds that are still green. You know, a lot of people are wondering, you know, what are you guys doing to stay productive? We're looking for vegetation. We're looking for bugs, all those things that the fish are looking for to feed on.
Okay.
I think it eliminates a lot of stuff too. It's nice because you could be sitting in one of those. So we're going to be doing a lot of basin fishing this year. You know, when the weather really starts getting cold, it's you know, we get facing 20 inches ice out there, middle of winter. We'll be concentrating on breaks and areas in the basin that looking at suspended fish and things just off, off breaks. And that being said, a lot of the time you'll see a lot of, we call them junk fish, but things that aren't necessarily game fish in the mix, because this is a huge system of fish here. So whether they be shads or drum, and sometimes you could be sitting there and on a traditional flasher wasting a lot of time on some drum down there.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's nice to know, and then it's nice to know sometimes that the ones on maybe there's some walleyes swimming down at the bottom under a big pack of drum.
Right.
And you really would never know that unless you're able to drop down with the camera.
Okay.
So
and do you spend a lot of time trying to figure out day to day where the fish are at before you go out there, or is it?
I mean, traditionally I tend to work similar patterns, I think. Like, as the season progresses, I have patterns that I feel more comfortable with.
And they don't move drastically from day to day then?
Well,
it's more
in and out.
Pressure changes will do a lot of that. We have about 7 years of notes.
Journals, dates, things like that, yeah.
Trevor keeps
they
a
don't
lot
lie.
of journals,
No.
A lot of guys,
That's awesome.
they kind of joke around when they see me every morning sitting in my truck. Everyone's drinking their coffee, and I'm over there rifling through my notes, and I'm like, well, this is what was working here last year. This is how it's been. And I'm a big moon phase guy.
Okay.
The moon phases don't lie. State records get caught around moon phase.
Oh, really? Yeah. In the winter months or all seasons? Yeah.
Long.
Okay.
If you specifically want to target
pressure.
that stuff.
Interesting.
I think there's a little bit less of a day-to-day change as there is like a seasonal change. I mean, I do see obviously the fish moving up and down in the water column, in and out, but relative in ice fishing, I think we see them stick in particular zones a lot more than in summer months when we have more current issues, especially with like surface currents and the turnover of lakes is warm currents get blown from one side to the other, whereas in the winter we don't really have that. So I think we're focusing more on zones and then moving, like knowing how to adapt within that day, moving in and out of areas that the fish are going to be holding.
And do you guys identify the lakes? Like if you took any particular body of water, do you kind of say, hey, Northwest is zone 1 and zone 2,
Absolutely.
that you guys kind of
Absolutely.
understand each other's language that way when you're talking to each other?
I mean, doing your homework is the most important part.
Okay.
I mean, me and Trevor I make it a point to do at least one big out-of-town trip every year, and we usually make at least 2.
Okay.
And I try to make it to different water every year.
Okay, something new.
Yeah.
Try and learn.
Last year, Trevor took me up to...
Peatwell's a prime example. We printed off 2 maps before we left, paperback maps, and we were up there and we sat down, we ordered a pizza. I go like this to Brian. I said, here's your map, here's my map.
Give me your
mark your spots.
Yep.
I don't know, 8 or 10 minutes later, I got my map. All right, you ready or what?
Yeah. We look at them, half of them are the same spots.
We look at them, then we circle all the ones that are the same,
Yep.
and it helps us narrow it down. It's the same way when we're working these bodies of water. Even on certain days, we might go down and say, hey, I think we should go try shallow water biting. He's like, well, I was down there with customers yesterday, and we were doing all right, but, let's go to the basin. So we'll meet halfway. We'll work the 15 foot of water, and then, one of us, we have the ability. One of us can go drill shallow. One of us can go drill deep. Grab the Panoptics, and just fly through it. All right, we're moving deep now, and then we can chase a school of fish around for most of the rest of the day.
Trevor's really well versed in shallow panfish. I mean, for sure, he gets on shallow water panfish bites that I don't even understand very well. So, in all honesty,
some of them are 2 feet of water. It's a super overlooked bite specifically on the Fox Chain of Lakes river system.
Especially up here on the north end of the chain. There's a lot of really big fish hanging out in shallow water in the middle of winter. And I'll be out there and I want to sit in the basin and try to catch 2 walleyes in one day. And Trevor's got a whole mess of bluegill sitting there in shallow water. So
all top percentile of fish, and a lot of it's knowing, spending the time, talking to biologists, spending time on the water. I spend a lot of time reading books. The library is right down the street. That you just go there for an hour and just, hey, I got an hour to kill today.
get
go
information.
pick up a biology book about fish and
or
learn something.
Yeah, or with the web or all the fishing shows that are on TV. I mean, you can always.
There's tons of great information.
There is, it's all available. Absolutely, yep. A lot of ways to get info, and I like your idea with the journaling and kind of doing all that stuff. And
the journal is probably I'd argue that you could take all this stuff away, but just don't take my notes.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean that.
And you forget that stuff if you don't write it down. You ain't gonna remember what was the bite before the the weather pattern last year. So
it really helps with fronts. So you have your front. You have cold fronts, warm fronts, and your barometric pressure.
Yeah.
And you really want to be on top of that. A quick pressure increase, a quick pressure decrease, or steady pressure. Steady pressure is probably the hardest time to ice fish.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't pay attention to that, you're not going to know. Hey, today's a really good day to target. Let's go target walleyes today, Brian. Or, hey, we've had this cold for a week and a half. Barometer's just been steady the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So we better go to the basin today. But if we see a big change, he knows where I'm going.
Shallow.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's one of the awesome things about being on the chain is there's so many different areas that we can fish. We have huge bays of weeds. We have huge drop-offs with 40 feet of water, and there's current all over the place.
Right.
And we have tons of species of fish out here to catch.
Yeah.
Mud, sand, rocks, weeds.
Yeah, you touched on the weeds earlier, and you said about finding green weeds this time of year sometimes can be challenging.
Or
but
even midwinter. Think about trying to find them in the middle of the winter. That's
Right.
the hardest part.
Right. Well, I was going to say, how deep can somebody typically find good weeds that are, still alive? It obviously depends on the time of year.
4 or 5 feet at the most, right?
Really? Yeah. So that's somewhat shallow.
It depends if there's clear ice.
It would depend on the ice. When you're looking at it.
That depends on the sunlight coming through
Sunlight,
to keep
how
them
much,
green
how much,
and all that.
How much snow cover?
Okay.
Some of our weeds are 30 feet of water. But we have weeds, but how long are those weeds going to stay live?
Okay.
True good vegetation.
Right.
Because as soon as they start to die off, it's actually dissolving the oxygen in the water. The fish are actually going to steer clear of that because it's robbing oxygen that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So that the biggest thing is you need to find healthy weeds.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for.
Stand up green weeds.
Stand up.
Yeah.
Stand up green weeds, huh?
Yeah,
Sounds like a good vegetable. So.
Yeah, right.
So, all right. So, I know, Trevor, we've known you for a couple of years now here at the shop. Do you recall kind of how we, met originally and some of the story?
Yeah, it was parts across the street. It was actually late ice. It was pouring rain out.
Season, okay.
And there was me and another guy, Thomas, who I actually still talk to. He was just up on Geneva here getting some walleyes a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd met him out here, and he's like, "Hey, you might want to run back in there. I think they're towing your car." And I was like, "Oh, it's all right. I don't think they are." He's like, "No, seriously."
No, seriously.
So I jet back over here, and your brother's actually standing at the launch, and he's like, I told him I figured I knew who you were, but I didn't really know who you were. He's like, make sure you go see my brother before you leave, though.
Okay. And that's how it all started, huh?
That's how it all started. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sticking around still. So
thanks for the parking over there.
Yeah, it's a great location.
It's a
the
great,
convenience. And
great asset to the chain. You can pull. We ran a 24-foot trailer last year. Pull it in and out of there. 3 machines in and out, no problems. I can back out. Nobody does anything. It's secure. Everything that ice fishing guys are looking for, it's here.
Yeah. And in the winter months, it's only $5 for parking, so it's probably one of the most reasonable spots around. So.
Access to 3 Great Lakes right here too.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And I know you guys spend a lot of time on the North Waters. So, what is it about the north side versus anywhere else on the chain? I guess that is appealing to you guys. I'm sure you fish different spots too, but
Oh, definitely. A lot of it does come down, especially ice fishing, because Brian does recoveries, fortunately.
okay.
Yeah, we spend most of our recovery time up here, but
Do you really?
The big thing is the amount of times per year that you can actually run. We run a lot of ATVs that I can run from Pistaki all the way up here. Last year was none. Year before that, I don't think we were able to make it one time. We made it almost all the way up here, but not quite. But it's access. The other thing is the fishery. Knowing what fish are in each lake, where they're going. Paying attention to year classes over the years. You know that, all right, they had a really good crappie hatch this year.
Mm-hmm.
These fish are this big, or the walleye hatch was this good, but they didn't survive really well. So there's a lot of big fish there, but the numbers are lower. And paying attention to that, and that most of that stuff's easily available online now.
Yeah.
Because of the bathography of this area, I mean, you're talking more physical water. There's more gallons of water up here on the North Chain than anywhere else.
Okay.
They're deep lakes.
Uh-huh.
So there's more biomass here in general. There's more things for the fish to feed on. That's why you see prime musky fishing up here.
Okay.
You don't hear as much about that on the lower end of the chain. And I think that's as a direct result of the pure biomass and
Okay.
the amount of fish that are out here from a bait fish perspective.
Mm-hmm.
For the game fish to feed on and grow to what they can be. Especially, and then you have more structure. I mean, purely there's other places on the chain that you can find nice drops, but particularly Channel and Catherine are going to offer you. Hundreds of yards of beautiful drops that are totally worth fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of my number one, if I had to pass on any information to anybody that's a novice or just getting into ice fishing would be start by the crowds, but figure out why you're fishing there.
Okay.
And then break away from the crowds and go try to find similar spots.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what we try to educate people with when we're out on the water with them. Is okay, we're fishing here, this is kind of what kind of fish are around here, but more importantly, this is why.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then it offers them the opportunity if they want to come back and just do an equipment rental, or maybe they get gung-ho and just go out and buy gear.
Right.
Either way, then they have something, a jumping off point to really get out there and do something else with it, make it their own.
Okay. And with the equipment rental, so do they stop at a certain location to get certain gear, or are you guys setting them up on the ice?
We prefer to set it up.
Okay. So
the hubs can be a little bit tricky, in all honesty.
Yep.
When we set up a hub, we ask that it not be moved
Okay.
for obvious reasons. Different trips have different criteria, basically.
Sure, yeah.
And depending on the level and qualifications of the fisherman,
Sure.
anything could be adjusted.
So they check in and check out with you on the ice.
Usually
pretty much.
we'll get out there and we'll basically have it all set up, and
Okay.
then we'll go back with either the machines or just have them walk out and meet us if there's if travel on the ice because of snow isn't prohibitive.
Right.
Usually we'll just have people walk out and meet us.
Okay.
But, if we do have the machines available to go pick them up if we need to. But
What if it were as simple as just the auger and drilling holes? Is somebody able to rent an auger, so to speak, or is it more of, hey, meet me out here, we'll drill the holes and and that type of thing?
yeah,
or?
I mean, on an equipment rental, I prefer to, because of the. I mean, we're dealing with whether it be a gas auger or even a Milwaukee drill style auger. It's still potentially dangerous. Let's put it that way.
Sure,
You know what I'm saying? You're dealing with a high torque situation. You sharp blades. So realistically, that would be more of a service that we try to provide for the customer. And that's not to say that they couldn't call us up and say, "Hey, we want to drill some more holes," and we swing over and drill them some more holes.
Right. Okay.
It's just as easy
you may
as
be
that.
on the ice anyway fishing.
Well,
so.
yeah, like I said, that's the cool thing about it. Is
That's
'cause-
that's the best part about doing rental trips is I primarily focus on guided trips. I'll try and pop in during rentals, but most of the time, weekends specifically, we're booked with guide trips. Ryan or Justin or one of our other guys that we have, we call them, the outfitters. Those guys, they're there all day. If we have 5-6 rentals on that lake, somebody's going to be there all day throughout those rentals. And the perk to the job is once you get them set up,
You're
turn
fishing.
your phone on, you
Right.
get to
You're
fish.
fishing.
Right, yeah.
And if they're on fish, they're finding them for you. But if you're
Yeah.
on fish, maybe you got a couple nice clients that aren't catching them, and you could be like, "Hey, come on
Hey,
over here."
Sure.
let's move your shack down
Yeah.
here. And the other thing is it helps a ton with our guide service because then we have our group of guys that are working with us to say, hey, I know you have a guide trip tomorrow. We got a really solid bite over here. Some good quality fish. This is a good spot to check out. Or hey, I know we talked about these couple spots, man. I don't think this is the time of the year. Next couple days, I don't think this is going to be the spot you're going to want to be at. So it helps us eliminate a lot of water. And like we were talking before with, do you guys go early or late to check spots? We really try to work amongst our group to to stay ahead of that game, so that way we don't necessarily have to go do that. You know, there's always a couple days, you know, if we do a little bit of off the chain guiding on some lakes in the area, and you better go check some spots on the way home.
Yeah.
You know, Brian lives
I live in Crystal Lake.
Lake.
So we've done Crystal Lake, Lake in the Hills.
Okay.
You know,
But it's nice 'cause I can
couple other
say-
local ones.
Yeah.
I can call Brian and be like, hey, on your way home, can you just run by here, just drill 10 holes and drop the camera and see what you see?
Sure, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, you know, he can call me back, hey, you know, this is on, or, you know,
Try something else,
I went
yeah.
somewhere else. and
Yeah.
I like that. You know, this looks a little bit better for you for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, likewise, I live more towards the north ends of the lake, so if Brian's running a trip up here, you know, I can shoot down from the lower, shoot up here, and call him back and say, hey, on the way home, I ran over there for you and just checked a couple spots.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And then he knows, you know, we got everything programmed through our GPS. Now we can log in the computer and share spots and everything,
Yeah.
you know, from halfway across the country if we need to.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
think
great.
it's cool. It's like I said, the shanty rental and the equipment rental is, I've noticed kind of a niche develop for derbies. You know, and
Okay.
especially because I think there's a lot of people, especially if it's like a neighborhood or a park district derby, something like that, where you get a buzz in the neighborhood. Oh, you fish in the ice derby, you fish in the ice derby, so you get people that want to go out and do it, but don't necessarily want a guide. They just want to go out there and fish and drink a couple beverages and eat some hot dogs or whatever. So, you know, we've been able to get out on a couple of these other smaller bodies of water, and it's fun because even though I live in Crystal Lake, I'm a mile away from Lake in the Hills. I don't spend any time out there, but I got to fish it twice last year. So,
Okay, yeah.
you know, it's like it puts me in places that I normally wouldn't be, and honestly, me and Trevor were talking about it. That we fished the Lake in the Hills Derby last year with a couple clients that ended up turning into return clients.
Okay.
She ended up booking like 4 more trips with us.
Okay,
full guide.
yeah.
Went to
But
Colorado, went to
Yeah.
Alaska.
she went
calls us
all over the place.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
she
Yeah,
goes all
some great
over now.
opportunities.
So,
Okay.
all off a spinoff. She just, I met her on one of the Facebook fishing forums. She's
Yeah.
like, hey, you guys fish a lot. Do you like rent an ice shack? I was like,
but it turned
We
into
do.
like, it was funny. We were at the
now
Lake in the
she's-
Hills
she's
Derby.
the most avid angler I know.
And I look
outside
at
of
Trevor,
the
I'm like, should I buy a ticket?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah,
And
right,
Trevor's
yeah.
like, yeah, buy a ticket.
Yeah.
And so it actually turned into like, and we were having a hard day fishing.
Yeah.
You know, like, and we went out on and everybody else was too, but, you know, we're out on a new body of water and everyone struggles sometimes.
Sure.
And it turned into a challenge. Me and Trevor like, okay, you girls stay here. We're gonna walk the whole side of the lake over here. We'll find some fish, and we didn't find fish.
Yeah, there you go.
So I mean, but you know, it's fun, and some of those days turn into good days. And even though we didn't catch fish, we still had fun,
Right,
You
yeah.
know, and still made somebody else interested in ice fishing. So.
Well, it's a unique idea, and we got a lot of product to cover, which we'll go into here. But Trevor, I know you were kind of a key influence in kind of creating the idea of the Musky Tails tournament series, the ice fishing series last year. We talked about that and put it together.
And
So
I was glad to see that you guys were able to bring that to fruition because
yeah,
a lot of my friends are really big into tournament angling, and I like the fact that, you know, Musky Tails specifically, you guys are really big on kids events, veterans events, getting more people out fishing, and that's what we at Wet and Wild Outfitters, that's what we're doing. So when I brought that to you, I was like, I really hope that somebody can pull this off, and I felt in good hands that when you were able to take over that idea and bring it to light, that it's going to become something great. And you know, we had that seminar up here. What was that? A few weeks ago with Kyle, and you could just see, you know, there's probably 6 or 8 guys just at that seminar that were already anticipating.
Right.
That. And I love to see that, you know, because you know, like, all right, not only did these guys participate, but they're already ready for the next round of it.
correct. Yeah, it was a success last year, and although I think Mother Nature threw us the biggest curveball when we didn't really get the early ice, you know, that we anticipated, which you know, you never know what you're going to get, but yeah, this year we've got the dates kind of lined up, and looking forward to that stuff. So as far as the website, how do people find out information, you know, about Wet and Wild Outfitters, and who do they contact to get questions answered?
Easiest way to do that is going to be wetinwildoutfitters.com, WET, letter N, WILD outfitters.com.
Okay.
Facebook, Wet and Wild Outfitters, or they can reach out to me direct on Facebook under Trevor James. You can see me on Illinois Fishing Addicts. I'm pretty vocal on that page.
Okay.
The rest of the pages and the boards, we're pretty lax. Occasional pop-ups on Lake Link, I'm on there. As Pursuit Outdoors, which is what our guide service actually operates under, is Pursuit Guide Service.
Okay.
So you can message me on Lake Link as well.
Okay, so you got that. You got a lot of different things that you're into then. So,
Yeah,
and I know you know a
kinda
lot
gotta
of
be all
people in
across
the
the
ice
boards.
world and a lot of different, you know
what? Yeah, it's a small
companies.
world, and I've noticed
It's a super small community.
it's a super small. It's a tight knit community.
Yeah.
There's a lot of camaraderie amongst guys. I think that are willing to spend all that time standing on a frozen lake together. And I had mentioned to Trevor last week, we were talking about it, and that's one of the things that I get the most out of it. I like to sit by myself and fish sometimes, but I like we can walk around. It's not typically like in a boating environment where you want to always be so far away from the other boat next to you. Ice fishing is a little bit more like, let's hang out, shoot the shit. I've had a lot of great conversations and met people on the ice.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas you don't really have as much of an opportunity during open water season to do that. So.
Okay. Yeah, and a lot of what you provide obviously is convenience. You're trying to make it easy for people to get involved in the sport, and the cold weather I think is a big. The elements do keep people away sometimes, and being able to provide something for them to kind of take away that reason makes it that much easier for them to even come out with kids and stuff too, or on their own for that matter.
I mean, I actually, that's where I met Trevor. We were doing a kids fishing event for Coon Creek Casters.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's Todd.
Fishing
Yep.
Club.
He's a local guy here. Has a lot of great information. Been fishing a long time. Fantastic guy. But me and Trevor have been doing a lot of. We ran into each other in our early days doing a bunch of kids events, and I always try to make it a point to do all that. And we've Trevor's got a young son, and we've always tried to make it. I think a lot of our business is really geared towards those first timers. A lot of younger kids, people with limited mobility, veterans, things of that nature. I think it's kind of a fun niche to be in.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not to say that we don't take anglers of all levels, but it's just a lot of guys want to do it on their own, and we like to offer an opportunity for the people, like I said, that don't really have the means and have the fancy equipment and all that stuff, just to get out and enjoy it. So.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's part. So some of the packages we were talking about before is we have like our intro to ice fishing package. So you and your boy could come out and say, all right, I do this a couple times a year. Let's throw me through the ringer. I just kind of want to see what you guys are going to do for the day.
Right.
So it's like our ice fishing 101. We get out, we figure out, all right, this is where we're going to go. This is what we're going to do. Break down the lake. Here's how it is. Then we have more advanced classes, which would be like our Panoptics classes. The guys that are signing up for some of these classes, they're going to have their own machine. They're going to have all their own equipment. They're showing up and going, all right, I want to learn how to fish this specific body of water because you guys got something that I don't have yet. And we're going to try and give him the piece of the puzzles that he's missing, Is it whether it's baits, using cameras. A lot of guys show up and they have, the best of XLR, FLX 28. They have, 7 and 9 inch Garmins. They have the best equipment that we can possibly have, but they're missing some like the smaller things, baits, the jig sizes. I can't believe more guys aren't using spoons.
Okay.
They're saying, oh, I want to target these bigger fish, and we're using 2.5 millimeter jigs.
Yeah.
And everyone will say, I fish some of the smallest jigs on the chain. Guys show up and they're like, what are you using here? But there's a time and a place for it. It doesn't mean I don't have an entire box of spoons here waiting, to get out in the basin and really start whaling on some of those bigger, the top of the year glass crappies, those 14, 15, 16 inch fish that are flourishing on the chain now, that
absolutely
are really taking a big comeback.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I found that, generally speaking, when I'm out there in the deep water, I like something with a little more flash, something a little bit bigger, and getting those suspended fish. It's nice. I found a lot of those bites, especially midwinter, in that 15 to 17 feet of water. where you'll be fishing walleyes, and then all of a sudden you'll have a school of crappies come right through the top. You just pick your bait up and catch a couple crappies, drop it back down, catch a couple walleyes. And I mean, that's
they smoke them.
same bait, and you'll have small crappies coming in taking a giant minnow, and
Right.
it's like actively feeding fish, and especially when you find them in the winter like that, I think they key into those big presentations.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of times fishing spoons all winter.
Yep.
But maybe sacrificing some fish, like maybe not catching quite as many in a day.
Right.
But I think that's kind of where me and Trevor have a nice contrast, and we're able to work together well, because he spends a lot of time, finesse fishing, really keyed into like real tight presentations, smaller jigs, really curtailing his presentation, where I'll go out and waste a little bit more time sometimes, but Trevor comes from more of a tournament angling side, where I come from more of a fishing for fun side of it.
Okay.
So I think that's part of the big reason that you see that.
Yeah, the chopper and the gunner.
There
That's
you
really what it
go,
comes
yeah.
down to.
Absolutely.
You got to find guys that you're meshing with, guys that get you out of your comfort zone. I fish a lot with Ice Team member Brody Vance, and that dude, he has gotten me so far out of my element so many days. I'm like,
absolutely.
I'm not doing this, man.
Okay.
And he was here last year with me a couple times. I don't know if you remember Brody.
Yep.
And what he does, he just tells me, stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. And he does not like the shallow water bite. He's like, I can't believe you guys are messing with me, having me fish this 3, 4, 5 feet of water stuff. I'm like, just relax, just put their shack over, quit talking, and just fish.
All right.
And he moved up a little further north now, but he's like, can't wait to come back down for that shallow water bite early season, because he knows, he's like, it pays off.
Yeah.
But he got me to start, him and Brian and a couple other guys really got me to focus on that deep water basin bite. And may not be my favorite, but it's productive, and our biggest fish are coming out of the basin.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it is there's a lot more water to look at, but I've got a couple spots that I kind of cut my teeth in, and I try to find spots that are similar to where spots I've had previous success. So whatever body, I mean, I think that's important as anglers, that we look at what kind of system are we fishing. Is this like a glacial lake, like a Lake Zurich, or it's Crystal Lake, or is this like a chain, like a flooded impoundment, like the Chain, or like a Gunnersville? These are, when we talk about those Tennessee River systems, you look at guys like Chris Groh, for instance, right, who's had a lot of success in professional bass fishing. Well, he's coming from a similar impoundment than a lot of these big Tennessee River impoundments are. So when you take the information that you learn on your home lake or Fox Lake, which is a great place to learn, you're able to adapt that into different environments. So if you come out here and you learn ice fishing, and you're thinking about, why am I doing this here, why am I doing this there, you can go up and fish the Chippewa flowage. You can go up and fish somewhere up north where it's similar systems, and you can take that knowledge and transfer it into your
Sure,
into
still
your
works.
fishing. Yeah, exactly.
The fish just need to be there. That's
Exactly.
the one part. So, now what about from a safety standpoint? When you first get into ice fishing,
Sure.
we want to make sure first and foremost people are safe. So what are some of the things that you're encouraging people to use, whether they're with you or not?
How do you work them?
I just got to use
These are new ones.
I just got to use these a couple weeks ago. These are the picks.
Okay.
So you're gonna have these around your neck all day, every day.
Okay.
You want to come out with me?
Regardless of how thick the ice is.
Yep. You fall through. Now imagine I'm kicking my feet now. I popped back up. Now I can grab the ice, lean forward, kick my feet out, and I can use these to scurry across the ice the same way I came in. I got to use these last
trying
week.
to keep your feet pushed towards the sky is kind of the idea, right?
So float suits. I like my strikers. A lot of my friends wear clam, Frable.
If I'm on sketchy ice, a traditional neoprene ski vest.
Okay.
I find it keeps you really warm underneath your jacket.
Okay.
If you're a little bit afraid, just put it on underneath your jacket. Put your jacket right over it. It adds that little extra level of safety.
The big thing is don't push first ice.
No.
Every year now, it seems like
unfortunately we've already had a tragedy in Illinois. I mean, it's not worth it. We could just wait.
Trevor mentioned earlier about your business with the Boatyard and recovery and all that. So
so we do snowmobile recovery on the Chain.
Yeah.
There's a couple areas, Grass Lake Bridge, just like God, 70-80% of our business comes from under that bridge.
Okay.
But yeah, we have an airboat.
Okay.
And we get out there in the unfortunate instance that you put all your stuff through the water.
Yeah.
So ATVs, snowmobiles, you know. But I think being keyed into that and then the safety aspect that we try to carry forward in ice fishing. I mean, it's really always safety first. It's like you always want to prepare yourself for like the worst when you're out on the ice. Ice conditions are always going to be variable. Even if you're out there fishing 12, 14, 16 inches of ice, you could walk over spots that are 3-4 inches. There could be spring activity in the lake. So the buddy system is number one, especially early
Spud
ice.
bar.
You're never going out by yourself. You're always with people. Spud bar is imperative, so you can spud the ice. You know,
Check
basically,
it.
you want
Especially when you start running machines. We're going to start running, you know,
Right.
we've been running machines now. And those first couple weeks we had machines out. You have to have one guy that he's got a drill in one hand, spud bar in the other, and he's checking ice.
Yep.
Do not just, all right, I saw so-and-so took their quad over there
Right.
across Petite.
The worst
That
thing you can
doesn't
do
mean
is
you go
follow
and rip
somebody.
that quad across
Okay.
the
You
lake
know,
today.
just
Really?
uneducated, follow somebody out onto the ice because you don't know how they got out in the middle of the ice there, and you don't know if they necessarily took a safe trip. You know, and furthermore, you don't know if the guy that's sitting out there is 160 pounds or 300.
Right.
So I think you need to be responsible for yourself. You know.
What about if there's snow cover and you see trails or tracks? Is that still safe or not
No,
necessarily?
I would say it's never 100%
Really?
safe.
Okay.
I mean, it's important
Yeah.
once I've fished a particular area for a while over the course of the winter, so if I've made my way on and off that particular body of water, I'll start to gain a confidence of what that area is doing, as long as the temperature range is similar. But anytime we're making our way out into an area, especially for the first time that year, we need to establish a safe route of travel on and off the ice.
The same late ice, you know, a lot of it's knowing your waters. You know, we know a lot of the current areas here. We know, you know, which spots are starting to lose ice early. Don't be afraid to walk. It's not. Our water system is large in capacity, but if you know you're going to fish Channel Lake, you know you're going to fish Catherine, you know you're going to fish Pistaki. You know, the parking, if it's not safe for a machine, and it's safe to walk, you know you got 4 inches. You can walk it, but don't rush it. You know, I think the internet made a big craze of, oh, I need to be the first guy out there today. I need to be the first one to post up. I walked all the way across the lake, and the reality is it really worth going through? And you know, every one of us has family that you got to sit back and think about. You
absolutely.
know?
And
The last call you want is the call. Wow, the call that your buddy didn't make it back.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says.
And you know, you got to
There's
realize
not
too that there's a lot of other people's, you know, lives that are in jeopardy as well, because you got your first responders out here and other people that are going to be out on the water. You know, you're not just necessarily doing this to, you know what I'm saying?
Right. That might be trying to help you. Yeah.
There's a big expense, and then there's a lot of, you know, being that we are a tight-knit community, we don't like to see accidents happen.
Right. Sure.
You know, so we'd rather just be safe and you know, pass on safe ice safety to people. And you know, and that being said, if I see somebody doing something that looks unsafe, don't be afraid to, you know, say something about it. You know, I think that's important as being an ambassador for the sport out there on the ice, is to, you know, if somebody needs a pointer here and there, you know, in a non-conceited egomaniac type of way, sometimes try to offer some people some help. You know what I mean? So, like I said, because the last thing you want to do is, you know, see somebody hurt doing something that we love. So.
Know your safety equipment. That's probably my biggest thing. We used this here a few weeks ago. We were on a channel, and one of the guys that was in our group, unfortunately, fell through the ice.
Okay.
Guess how many guys knew how to use this? They were in that group. 9 guys. You know how many knew how to use this?
One.
None.
Okay.
The only guy that knew how to use it was in the water.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good then, right? No, it's not good.
So this is a throw bag.
Okay.
If somebody falls through the ice, you can put it right through, and I can just throw it. This leaves me on safe ice.
So, okay.
And I can pull you in. You can grab this now.
Okay.
Wrap this around yourself, and I can pull you in. Brian and I could both pull you in if hopefully you're not unconscious. But I think these are $5-6 at Walmart.
Or
This
you-
is an
you can
unexcusable thing to not have in your shack
Yeah.
every single day. I
I
don't
think
care if
the
there's
easy
a foot
way
of ice.
is, I mean, what I've always had and I like to have around is a basic throw cushion. You know, basic boat throw cushion with a long rope attached to it. You
Okay.
want to have 20 feet of rope because that's how, at least 20 feet of rope because that's how far you're going to need to space yourself from somebody to make sure that you're on safe ice. you
Okay.
know. And now that being said, with that, the ice cleats too. Because, you know, if you're in a situation where you need to move across slick or wet ice,
Yep.
you know, having a safe way to travel on the ice is pretty important. And nothing spoils a day of fishing like a broken wrist or a,
Sure,
or
yeah.
a bruised butt. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, or
So,
wet clothes for that matter if you
Yep.
slide down. So.
Absolutely.
And I've only
Okay.
ripped one 4-wheeler seat in 10 years.
Yeah.
So
Oh, there you
don't,
go.
don't worry
yeah.
about your seat.
Yeah.
Like, they're really not that bad.
It's better to not be falling, and honestly, it makes for a longer day fishing.
Yeah.
Like I wear them pretty. The only time I'm not wearing cleats is when we have a heavy snow cover.
Okay.
But anytime that there's any slick ice around, I wear them because it lets you walk naturally on the ice,
Okay.
as opposed to shuffling constantly,
Sure.
where you feel like you're off balance.
Okay.
So you can get a lot longer day in fishing.
That's
You know what I
interesting,
mean?
yeah. Okay. So you've got some of the great equipment to get us to our site. So we get to our site, we're safe, secure, we know our whereabouts, and you got the shanty set up. So then what's next? What do you start to do in terms of getting set up for the day?
Well, I typically look at my map first and make sure we're fishing where we want to be fishing,
Okay.
and then
So if this is a spot that, yeah, you kind of knew already and
Then
we're out there, and then
busting-
what's happening now?
Busting out the drill.
busting out the
Busting
drill. Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
Usually
Getting that
we'll work
laser
together. Yeah. So depending on how deep the ice is, I still like to fish. I still like to fish a traditional auger,
Okay.
gas auger. When there's a lot of ice. Trevor likes the clam plate
Okay.
with the Milwaukee Fuel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both are awesome, you know. But basically, when we work together as a team, one of us will just start drilling until your arms are tired,
Okay.
and the other person follows with
Pan optics.
pan optics.
Follows
or-
with that. Okay.
Right.
And it eliminates, we're drilling 30% less holes now after switching to pan optics and live scope, because we can scan faster. If we're working a basin,
Mm-hmm.
we can see exactly where we want to go. I can say, all right, Brian, this is the way we want to move. This is the edge they're working. And then we can just focus on drilling just those specific pieces of structure out.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, when we were just using flashers, I'll be honest, that Vexilar,
Mhm.
nothing outperforms that in the weeds. There's not
Okay.
a single thing on the market right now.
Okay.
But in the basin, the Garmin blows it away. We were
Yeah.
on Petenwell last year, and Brian and I were working a piece of structure. And I said, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, we're just
And
making 15, 20
Just-
foot moves
Yeah.
and staying on top of
just-
the school.
And we chased that school for 3 hours.
It's nice with the pan optics, we're able to space the holes farther apart. So
Okay.
where I would normally have to drill 15 holes to cover an area, I could drill 7 or 8.
Okay.
And, you know, then we could, because you're able to look at an angle.
Okay.
You're not just looking straight down.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a good tool. Still, it doesn't put fish on the hook.
Right. Do you
Yeah.
guys bring both of the units out there all the time then?
Yeah,
So
I actually,
they got
I actually
different
fish
uses?
I fish a hummingbird.
Okay. So
Um,
they're all right. So you got different things?
Trevor's usually got the Garmin.
Okay.
And then depending on what the day is, the Vexilar comes along too. The thing about the Vexilar is the target separation.
Okay.
So with the Garmin and the Humminbird, you're still able to see everything. The Vexilar is a little quicker,
Mm-hmm.
and it's able to discern things in vegetation and skinnier water a lot better.
Okay.
You know, so they all work great. I mean, it's
Okay,
funny
yeah.
because I fish the Humminbird, but I'll end up fishing it on traditional flasher mode like half of the time.
Okay.
So, but it's
gee.
nice to be able to go back and forth with the maps, you
Mhm.
know. So.
Yeah. And then, so you're busting up the ice. Sounds fun, but it's probably a lot of work. So
Mm-hmm.
you get tiring doing that sometimes, or
It's too fun for me.
Too fun?
I love ice fishing.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I hand drill a lot in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Well, Trevor uses
I
his,
run a drill,
his
so
drill all year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll run that 30 inches of ice, Lake Metagoshi,
Yeah.
all over. I love fishing backwaters on the Mississippi, La Crosse area, Stoddard.
Hmm.
Some of that's the best fishing in the country in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But that drill goes with me every day.
Yeah, I got a good old 6-inch nils,
Mhm.
slices like butter.
Okay.
And I like carrying it around, like especially really early ice.
Mm-hmm.
Where I don't want to have a lot of stuff. And just easy.
Okay.
You know, but then I'd say hand drilling gets tiring.
Sure.
But if you have a sharp auger, that helps.
Yeah.
And you know, the gas augers are heavy, so that gets tiring.
Okay.
I think the technology behind the new electric augers is awesome, but you're still limited to batteries. So it's all a trade-off.
And again, with the services you guys provide, a lot of that legwork is done for the average angler that goes
Pretty
out
much,
there.
yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
like me that goes out that doesn't ice fish or know how to run some of these auger units, you know, it makes it easy if you have the holes ready to
Yeah.
go. So,
Yeah, that's the goal of it, is just to make it as enjoyable as possible for every client.
sure, yeah.
So that way, whether it be bringing out people for a corporate outing. This year we partnered with TLS Veterans out of McHenry to take some veterans fishing.
Great idea.
And it's fun, it's enjoyable. Everybody that's on the trip, and I'll be honest, most of these guys are like, "Let me get that auger. I want to, I want
Yeah.
to blast a few holes."
Pretty
you
much.
know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, then it's let's get the whole experience. Why? We're all here. We all want to do the same thing. So why take it away? Some people that come out they've never even been ice fishing. They show up and they're
In shorts.
sweatpants, shorts, and in a base layer. You're like, let me run over to my truck and I got a coat we can get you for the day.
Excuse me, it might
But-
smell like bluegill a little
But we
bit.
do,
Yeah.
But we do try. We set an itinerary before, and we try to get people to show up as prepared as possible, so that we can prevent that, because you're probably getting yesterday's.
Yeah, and I mean,
Jacket.
we do things like, we usually have water and Gatorades and things
Okay.
like, non-perishables, granola bars, bags of chips, things like that. Just in case somebody doesn't bring any food or whatever, you don't want to spoil a day fishing because you're thirsty.
Sure,
You
yeah.
know, so.
Sure. And then what about some of the gear when you actually get to the the spot you want to be? You got your holes drilled. What are you starting with fishing wise? What kind of rod, tip ups, or setups are you actually using? Tell me a little bit about that.
Usually, when I start with jigs,
Okay. So you start jigging.
you have your traditional rod. I would probably start you on 4mm, 5mm jigs, fast moving stuff.
Okay.
Light, slow, we'll downsize, 2, 3mm, 2.5mm, some of the stuff.
So
lot
if
of
the
stuff
bite's
that
slow, you're downsizing
we're
your
gonna
bait. Okay.
downsize.
Okay.
Not to say that there's not plenty of days where we're going to upsize if the bite's really on, try and target bigger fish.
Okay.
But a lot of times, cold fronts, we're going to drop it down. We're going to fish a ton of plastics, as you can see here. This is my day pack.
Okay.
If I brought my entire collection, most people would be intimidated by it. But this is traditionally what I'd bring out for a day guiding.
Okay.
Is
Try a variety and
all the
figure out
colors
what
that
the bite
I know
is.
are working on this system.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of pinks, a lot of orange, tons of chartreuse colors.
Mm-hmm. And that's panfish type of stuff, or is that a variety for a little bit of everything? I know you guys talk
pretty
about
much geared
walleye.
towards panfish.
It is, okay, yeah.
Panfish
You know,
and walleye.
if you're fishing like a traditional tungsten or teardrop style jig, I think that's going to be one of the most common presentations. It lends itself to either having a plastic or having meat on the hook. I'm a big proponent of having both.
Okay, sure.
I like covering the tip of the hook with a little bit of meat.
Okay.
But still having my plastic out there. But that's not to say that you're not going to catch your odd walleye or your odd pike, that comes in and looks at that, because in the wintertime, fish are a lot less picky about what they're eating, so they're not going to pass up a meal even if it's small.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just a matter of what are you fishing for that particular day.
Right.
But I think the go-tos, the fun thing is every angler develops their own go-tos. And
Right.
one angler, like last year, we were up there fishing on the Mississippi River backwaters up in La Crosse.
Yep.
And I'm out there pounding away and catching a couple fish here and there, and my buddy's over there, he's talking, and I was like, yeah, what do you think I should use? He's like, well, I catch a lot of them on white, and as long anything but orange.
Yeah.
And I looked down, I got
You got an orange,
I got an
yeah,
orange
yeah.
jig out, I drop it back in the hole, and I caught the perch of the trip.
Okay,
So,
no kidding, yeah.
and he's like, maybe I was wrong about
Yeah.
orange, but it's about having your own, once you figure out a couple things that work, and I think Trevor and me kind of share the respect that we kind of picked this up on our own. Did it because I know I did personally, but did it because we enjoyed it and went out there and spent a lot of time experimenting. And you pick up your own little things that you do, your own jigs that you like, and Trevor and me might not be fishing the same thing.
I mean, then you start getting into,
but you have your confidence bait. You
Sure,
know what
absolutely.
then
Yeah.
you start getting into painting your own
At the end of the
jigs,
day,
and
you
they
want to
can-
put people on fish. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's see if I can find some of the ones that I
What are you trying to get to?
Sure, some of the ones. Then you start getting into the ones where you start making them yourself.
Yeah, just taking a jig and putting splotches of your girlfriend's nail polish on
Oh,
it.
nice. All right. Well, that works too sometimes, I guess, huh?
Or
You know, or-
sometimes it's important to be able to adapt,
Yeah.
because maybe there is a hot bite
Then
and
you
it's
start
something that
getting
you
in-
don't have.
Oh, Kurt hasn't seen any of this stuff yet.
So, and you talked about spoons a minute ago too. So, at what point? So, you start with jigs, and then you switch to spoons all the time, or does it just depend on if the jigs aren't working? Or?
Well, typically you're going to be using a completely different rod and reel.
Okay. Oh, you are. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, a
And-
lot of the jiggings, the spoons that we'd be using are going to be significantly heavier than all these tiny jigs. Trevor really likes the palm reels and
There you go, Brian.
the schoolie style rods.
Okay.
I like small inline rods as well, but very, very sensitive. Whereas when you're fishing a heavier spoon, you're going to want something like a medium light or a medium action rod. That's something that's going to hold not only the bait and the spoon, but the fish that you're going to catch on it as well.
Favorite one right
Okay.
there.
Yeah, clam dropper.
That perch color.
So,
Slender spoons.
I mean, just basically depending on what you're targeting.
Yeah.
Like, so if I'm targeting walleye flat out, I'm going to start with a spoon. Same thing with perch, I'll always have a smaller spoon on. Depending on the day, I really like fishing spoons for crappies as well. So I'll have, between me and Trevor, I mean, a typical day of fishing, no less than 4 or 5
Yeah.
rods rigged up, and half of them for one set of presentations, half of them for the other.
Okay.
You know.
So yes, there's a lot of it's species specific. We know, before we go out for the day, we know exactly, all right, this is what we're targeting today. You're gonna know, I like fishing rip and wraps for big crappies. A lot of the spoons, like the one you got there, the Haley jig. That's my go-to perch rig.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, now I know that's a single hook versus a treble
Yeah,
and
those
stuff
are neat
like
because
that.
the chain puts it a little farther away from the bottom and
Okay.
lets the meat move freely on the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Those are super heavy. Those are great for deep water. They just drop like nothing.
straight down.
So yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you're on a hot bite, schooled fish.
Okay.
That's a great way to get up and down really efficient.
And what's that one called?
A holly jig.
Holly jig. Okay. And then what's the names of these different baits?
Tingler
Just out of
spoon.
curiosity.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is a tingler spoon.
Okay.
Popular, the wedge shape. This would be like a walleye or crappie spoon. They sell these in the larger size too, but I actually try to stick to these. I think it's the 1/8 ounce size.
Okay.
And then, let's see what else you got. You get the clam version of this too, right? The flutter minnow or whatever.
Yeah,
the
leech flutter
Leech
spoon.
flutter spoon. These are neat. Same.
I cast that too in the summertime.
Yeah, same concept, but they give you a dressed hook, a
Mhm.
little extra flash. I'll
Okay,
be fishing.
yep.
I'll usually fish spoons now, like with either a combination of. When I buy minnows, I'm typically buying crappie minnows and mediums.
Mm-hmm.
The crappie minnows being smaller, I like to fish them whole.
Mhm.
I've even had bites where, believe it or not, we're fishing multiple minnows,
Mm-hmm.
crappie minnows or multiple minnows on one set of trebles. So I have 2 or 3 minnows.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't believe it, and then I watched a couple of videos on some guys up north that were doing it.
Yeah.
And it's a different presentation because
Yeah.
it looks kind of like a little ball of feeding fish.
Yeah.
Basically, you're trying to create like a little feeding frenzy with your spoon.
Okay.
And the meat kind of adds to that attractant. So I'll start with that, but then you kind of have to adapt. And a lot of the time, they like the tails pinched on the minnows.
Okay.
So half a minnow. You're
Mhm.
only fishing the head and leave the guts kind of hanging out of it.
Okay.
And basically, I'll kind of work back and forth between those two presentations.
Mhm.
So I'll start off with a whole minnow and drop it down, and then if they're not digging it, or I'm getting, again, this is primarily for walleye fishing, but
Right. Yeah.
if you see the fish moving in but not committing, sometimes you need to pinch it or do the opposite of whatever you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just figure out what's going to trigger.
Sometimes they
them,
like, a lot of the time with the spoons, they'll like a real aggressive jigging motion. Sometimes they just want it to be bounced.
Okay.
But it's
That's the fun of it, right?
It's very versatile, yeah, and that's like I said. That's why you gotta,
Bucking bronco.
you gotta find your your go-tos, and then really concentrate on using them.
Yeah.
And that kind of, that gives you those confidence baits.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So the cool thing about ice fishing is you could have 2 little boxes of tackle and this, and 2 or 3 rods.
And that'll be good for the day.
And you're
huh?
out, and you're out there. I mean, most of these tackle boxes are designed to basically fit in your pocket.
That's the nice part about
Yep.
I mean, obviously
Trevor's
the
probably
other
got
equipment's
200 jigs
big,
in
but
that little
yeah,
box. You know what I mean?
versus a whole tackle box.
Right.
I wouldn't even take a third of these out for a day. A lot
Really?
of these are actually like my private collection.
Mm-hmm.
Jigs that are no longer made or hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
The other weird thing I do, every time I buy jigs,
Mm-hmm.
I buy 2 of them in case it works.
Okay.
So if I only have 1 left, it goes on this side.
Yeah.
If I still have 2 left, it goes on this side.
Okay.
So that way I know if it's over here, if
Oh,
I
there
see
you
him
go.
again, I know
Okay.
to pick another one up. The other thing that does, in case I have a break off, you're on the lake. This is my hot color day. It's my confidence
Yeah, I
bait.
think that's a good tip.
I really do like. I'm a big. I've been a sports player my whole life. Confidence is key, whether it's fishing, or another athletic sport as well. If you're not confident, you're not ever going to succeed.
Uh-huh.
And you can see,
Freedom
yeah. When
I
it
think
comes
that's
to
a great
spoons,
tip, yeah.
Everything, whatever it may be, I pick up 2 of everything. So that way, if I have a break off, tied a bad knot, rush that one a little bit.
I learned it from salmon fishing,
And
and you
you
never
better
want
have 2 of
yeah,
them
because
in
you don't
there.
want to be on a hot bite on your favorite lure,
Right.
and you lose it, and then all of a sudden nothing's working,
Or-
so.
Or your buddy shows up after work and he's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna swing out for an hour. I don't
Yeah.
have any of my stuff." I know I can just have him zip tie one on real quick, and we're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the things that I myself specifically do, and I preach to a lot of people to do it, is keep a couple of them in there. Just you're confident in it. It's gonna make your day better because you're not overthinking it. Hey, this color's working. It's been working.
How many hours in a day? So what is a half-day trip versus a full-day trip then? Just so
So a
people
half day
know.
is going to be up to 5 hours.
Okay.
You can do 7 or 8 o'clock start. We try to let people pick them out. If we have an afternoon trip, then we'll specify, yes, we have a morning trip, but it's going to be this start time. Afternoon trips are usually anywhere from noon to 1 o'clock start. Then we wrap up 5, 6 p.m. We do a lot of overnight trips that will start at, say, 10 o'clock at night and fish through, fishing that 10, 11, 12, 1, 2 a.m. bite. And there's been a large influx in people interested in those.
Those are
specifically
typically more advanced.
more
angles.
advanced
Right,
anglers
okay,
for sure.
sure.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
But
makes
targeting
sense.
larger crappies.
Now, we don't typically guide for walleye just because there's a few reasons. First off, they're a little harder to catch. Second, walleye anglers can be kind of tight-lipped about their spots, if you will, and
Okay.
don't really like, seeing a whole bunch of traffic in them. But I think, more importantly, and this goes for everything that we're doing out there, we're trying to pass on preservation of our resource to our anglers as well.
yeah.
So we want to see people out there. We're teaching selective harvest. We're trying to explain to people, hey, when we see a strong year class of fish, you dropping down and everything you're pulling out is a 5-inch bluegill, you should probably keep a couple 5-inch bluegill.
Right,
As
yeah.
opposed to trying to keep that 1 12-inch that you caught and fought
Okay.
all day for,
Yeah.
Doing things like that helps improve our fisheries, and we want to see them grow, and we
Yeah.
want to see this opportunity for people to be out here. So I think that's one of the big things that somebody that may be just getting into it can take away from it is more of a idea of conservation and preservation out there.
Yeah. 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 A lot of times.
Yeah, catch and release fishing. I myself am one of the largest advocates on that.
Yep.
If you see me take fish home for the day, you might want to take a picture because you're probably not going to see it again.
Oh,
for the rest of
really?
the
Yeah.
year.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
No
well,
kidding. So you really.
we were just talking about
CPR.
that.
We encourage our clients to do CPR, but we understand at the same point,
Yeah.
like some of them are looking for fish.
Well, I see you got a useful tool here. So
Bump board.
yeah,
What's
Trevor.
it say on there?
What's it say?
throw them back.
Bump or bust.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
You know why it says that? Because nobody believes you unless you got a picture of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, and that's
bump
true.
board's
Yep.
important because we're always keeping track of, creel. So
Yep.
different bodies of water are going to have different specific lengths that we have to adhere to as far as what you're allowed to keep. Now the big one is walleyes. You have to be really careful, especially out being here on the chain. We have a slot limit.
Yep.
So you need to make sure that you know what your limit is, and it's not a cheap ticket. So don't risk your gear.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they will confiscate your gear. They don't like that at all, and it's just not good practice in general.
Sure.
Trevor uses them for tournament fishing. You need to be able to measure them on the fly, right?
Yep.
Yep. So,
We do a lot of catch and release style tournaments on the internet nowadays. You can sign up online and fish catch and release tournaments, and it's a great way. They're all done with bump boards. This one's not legal because I drew on it.
Oh, there you go.
But,
That's see.
For our system, we want to mark all of our 8 to 10, 11, 12 inch panfish that we're catching. So
Okay.
we have a small group of guys in the circle that everybody came to the shop one day, and we marked them all up.
There you go.
But we can see that the nine's getting a little worn off already. So
yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different styles of bump boards.
Yep.
I like Trevor prefer the metal one.
Sure.
Wintertime, the plastic ones can get a little bit fragile, but there's a few that are a little bit easier to use if you're not familiar with them, that have more of a trough style.
Okay.
Now, I think it's really important to even have a tape measure on you all the time as well,
Okay.
because if you're dealing with a fish that's over 22 inches,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Especially
They're-
like a lot of pike, you're going to be keeping 30 and above. So, if you're out there to harvest, you need to make sure that you're doing it legally.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Record it right. Yeah.
zero tolerance with our customers. If we go to a rental and somebody
Is over
is
limit.
over a limit
Yep.
or keeping illegal fish, we text the DNR guys. Hey, come bust them.
Okay.
We let them know.
Sure.
You gotta have a fishing license. We let them know all the regulations, and
Yep.
if they don't want to adhere to it, we are the first.
Yeah, we
guys.
were just talking about it, like about an
It's all
hour
about
ago
being
before we
legal.
got here. We were talking about how often do me and Trevor keep fish, and I mean I love to eat fish. Bluegill's one of my favorite things to eat. But even though we can keep 25 of them, you're never going to catch me with more than 6
Oh,
or
okay,
7,
yeah.
unless I got people coming over. But I mean,
Sure.
there's more fish in the lake. If you
Sounds
wanna
good
go
right
back
about
and-
now, though.
Yeah, that would be
Right.
good. There's more fish. If you want to come back and catch them tomorrow, it doesn't do any justice to the fish to freeze it and keep it in your freezer for 2 months or 3 months. You take it as you need it
Right.
if you're going to be eating it. So
Sure. What's some of the other equipment we have here that we didn't really touch on?
cold snap
Cold
plug,
snap cover.
cold snap,
That is arguably
one of the better
my
inventions of late.
top 5 ice fishing tools that I
right.
carry.
See, I thought that was for the porta potty for a second, but
So no, it's a fantastic blade cover for your
All right.
augers.
yeah.
It works with just pressure.
Yep.
You just push the auger down into it, and it stays on there. You got literal razor blades down there. So
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise you get these.
Okay.
yeah.
There you go.
They'll take out the top of a boot real fast.
Really?
So
No kidding.
these are fantastic. Cold Snap has a couple great products. They actually have a hook degorger that's fantastic as well.
Yeah, T2 toothpick.
Yep.
There's
So
one on every one of my coats except for this one.
yeah, absolutely, and they're a somewhat local company as well. So what else? What else we got?
What we got here?
Oh,
Flame King.
yeah. So we've
Refillable
switched to
propane
refillable
bottles.
propane.
Part of our recycling, trying to.
Yeah, it's the
be
first
more
year
green
we
with
switched to
everything.
it. They've come out with some great new ways to fill it safely. People have been doing it now for a few years, but now they've got a few options.
And that's the tanks you run inside the shanty, and
Yep.
Right.
All of our buddy heaters all run off propanes. We sat down, Brian and I, and we were just running math. How many propane bottles did we burn last year? And
that's what I'm wondering. How many do you go through in a day?
Well,
Depends
so
on the
one of
day.
those, typically you can get like 4 or 5 hours, so like one full
Okay.
trip out of one bottle.
Okay.
Now times that by the number of trips
Right,
and the number
exactly.
of days plus the number of days that me and Trevor are using them for ourselves.
Sure.
on
mean,
top, for typical Saturday, if we have 4 rentals out, double booked, Brian and I are out fishing, it's not uncommon to say that we'll go through anywhere from 8 to 12 bottles of propane for one day. And then that's
Yeah.
4-5 days a week that you're doing that. So 40 to 50 bottles of propane a week
Wow.
that we've now got down to 10 refillables
Okay.
You know, so we were.
Less waste.
Yeah.
It's really the goal is, you know, and then, you know, picking up the garbage every day. You know, we were coming off of a lake here last year, and somebody asked me, why do you keep that garbage bag on your four-wheeler in my saddlebag?
Yeah.
I got a garbage bag in one end and a tackle box in the other. I said, because when I come out of here, I'm going to stop and pick up all the garbage. And Brian and I literally picked up an entire 50-gallon
Just
garbage bag full of garbage
cleaning stuff
one
up,
night.
yeah.
And community holes, you know.
Yeah,
you know,
no
it's,
kidding, really?
And half of it's propane bottles. You know, there's options out there for guys to be a little more conservative and save some money. You know, at the same time, if you're out there, these bottles here cost the same as buying 3 propane bottles from any box store now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's an incentive. You know.
Yeah, but basically now we run refill the main propane tanks are going to be refillable anyway. If you go to some place like a Menards that can fill them on site,
Yeah.
and then we're running those, so we're like pretty much at zero waste now on our propane.
Okay.
So, which is a lot better than a trunk full of empty propane.
Mhm,
You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is the cool thing about these actually is we were just talking about in the store. It comes with this cool protector on top.
Yeah.
So when it's done, we'll know an empty one versus a full one by whether or not it's topped.
Sure.
And then you can kind of keep track of them that way. So this is going to be a nice one to be trying out this year.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are probably getting excited for the upcoming season to hit hard here with the ice and
Yep.
No
kind of
doubt.
get on out
Let's
there.
hope Mother Nature cooperates a little sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I would hope so. And, you know, I think we probably got, you know, what, typically 2 months of fishing for you from...
Yeah.
For Illinois, we'll you know, we've been on ice since November 16th was my first day on the ice this year.
Okay.
And we'll try to fish into April as much as possible.
Really?
Usually teeters off middle of March, and we'll try and do a late March or April trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as Illinois waters goes, there's roughly, you know, 60 to 70 days of actual safe hard water fishing
Okay.
on a good season. Not to say that couldn't be cut short or extended.
Right. But that's generally what
That's
you have.
generally
Yeah.
what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we're working on learning some new southeast Wisconsin lakes. So
Mhm.
some of that stuff will start coming up here
Okay. So the guide
as time
service
goes
will
on.
kind
So
of expand.
there's
and
definitely
do
some
that,
expansions for us as far as
Different
guide service,
regulations
where we're
being
gonna
over,
go.
over the border and things of that nature that have to be worked out. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
But a lot of the logistics of it's done. We're just trying to play the cards right. We don't want to get too big too quick. We just want to really focus on the angler education, make sure everybody's having the best experience they can on every adventure. So
Very good. Well, I appreciate you guys being on the show here today with us.
Thanks,
And for all our viewers, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And continue to watch the podcast and follow these guys at Wet and Wild Outfitters. And, you know, maybe one of these days I'll get out there with you. So
Cool, thank
teach
you.
me how to do it right.
Thank you,
So
Kurt.
thank
see
you
you out
again.
there, Kurt.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
So, yep.